Welcome to the Plant Trainers Podcast, where we're helping people improve their quality of life through nutrition and fitness. And now, your hosts, nutrition and wellness coaches, international speakers, Adam and Shoshana Chaim.
Hey, I'm Adam Chaim.
And I'm Shoshana Chaim, and we are Propelled by Plants.
Today we bring to you episode 275, Competing for Confidence with Samantha Shorkey.
In today's episode of the Plant Trainers Podcast, we talked to Sam Shorkey about competing for confidence. If you've ever wondered what goes into bikini bodybuilding competitions, then it's the right place to be. From mindset to training to nutrition, Sam lets us in on it all. And if you're thinking bikini competition is good for the ego and confidence, then think again. You've got to have some pretty thick skin, so to speak. So get ready to hear the ups and downs that have made Sam and some of her clients real winners. Give a share out to your Facebook today. You could find this episode at planttrainers.com/275.
Samantha Shorkey is the first ever Vegan World Naturals Bikini Pro, author, blogger, and podcast host of Jacked on the Beanstalk. She's also coach to the winner of bodybuilding.com's $200,000 12-week transformation challenge in 2015, beating out 345,000 other contestants worldwide. Since launching Jacked on the Beanstalk in 2013, Sam has been blazing trails and breaking stereotypes in the competitive bodybuilding world, proving just how possible it is to get jacked on the beanstalk.
Hey patrons, we wanted to give you an extra shout out and tell you we appreciate how much you care. Because of your contributions, no matter how big or small, you've helped us to cover hosting and production costs, as well as give a bright young intern a chance to work with our compassionate company. For those of you who want to help support the show, support learning opportunities for young plant-based students and compassionate causes, you can do so at patreon.com/planttrainers or click the link in the show notes.
And now for a moment of gratitude.
I'm grateful for meetings, in particular a meeting that I had with a woman the other day who has been coaching families of children with autism to be able to thrive a little bit more and overcome a lot of anxiety. And in her sharing her stories and me sharing my stories with a lot of my clients who come to me for nutrition and fitness, but that also come with a lot of anxiety, I guess, because I talk about my PTSD so much, just sharing those stories with each other and bringing each other's energy up and getting more ideas on how to bring some of the things into the coaching that we're doing now that the other person's doing is just so wonderful. So the idea of networking and meeting with people is just so wonderful.
I'm grateful for our kids in the kitchen and how they are starting to get more and more involved in helping us cook and prepare food. And if you watch our Instagram stories, you would have seen Russ making our butternut squash soup not too long ago. So
good.
Really just grateful to have them experiencing the kitchen and getting involved in preparing food.
Samantha Shorkey, welcome to the Plant Trainers Podcast.
Hi guys, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And in light of thanks, I know that gratitude is part of something that you do every day. Do you have something that you want to share with us and our listeners?
Yes, I love the gratitude practice. I definitely do that on my own. I would say this morning, I am grateful for these new slipper socks I'm wearing and for this nice mug of coffee I'm drinking, and grateful for having a business that allows me to connect with cool people like you and save animals and share my passions with the world.
And wear your new slipper socks while you work.
Exactly. I got them on right now.
I have a pair on too. My mom bought them from me. I think they're from Indigo.
It's a thing, right? Like once you start with the slipper socks, you're dedicated for life.
And if you wash them, they're not going to be as comfortable after. So never wash them.
All right, ladies, I don't have a pair, so I think someone's going to have to get me some.
All right.
Yep.
So the listeners heard that. Slipper socks for Adam. Yeah, that's going to be his Hanukkah present this year. And make sure that they're not wool, because wool, of course, comes from sheep, lamb.
Yep.
Sheep, baby lambs,
Sheep.
adult sheep. And we don't want to put them through any unnecessary trauma that they don't need to go through. So we're looking for different kind of fibers here, like cotton or synthetic. So stay away from wool, people, when you're going out to get your slipper socks. And talking about, being kind to the animals, why don't you tell us, Sam, what got you into the vegan world?
Okay, so I grew up in a log house in the middle of the forest. We did not have cable TV. We had nature. So I spent a lot of time outdoors. And where I grew up, we had a lot of deer that would come to our property. And every hunting season, when they would disappear, and as a very young kid, I would see these dead deer carcasses slung in the back of pickup trucks. And it was very horrible and traumatizing for me. So at 8 years old, I made the connection. Well, why is it that we get so sad to see the deer disappear every fall, but we're still eating cows and pigs and chickens, and that's okay? So along with my sister, who was 14 at the time, we told our parents that we wanted to be vegetarian. And shockingly enough, despite growing up in a country household, my mom was very supportive of it. So I was a very unhealthy vegetarian for a long time, basically surviving on fries and salad. And my mom would cook, meat, potatoes, and a vegetable. And I'd just eat the potatoes and the vegetable. And then I went full vegan in 2011 when I was living in Vancouver, which is the vegan capital of Canada, I would say, and got introduced to some vegan friends. And they said, well, do you know about the dairy industry and the egg industry? And then I started doing some research on my own and realized that they're actually even more cruel in some ways than the meat industry. And then pretty much overnight, I made the switch from vegetarian to vegan. So I've been vegan for 7 years now.
So I love in that story is basically what you're saying is you grew up on vegetables and potatoes. You probably didn't eat a lot of beans and legumes, and where'd you get your protein, vegan kind of food. And you still ended up a healthy adult, into fitness, into nutrition, bodybuilding, and all of that. And you turned out okay.
Well, I should say I hit puberty very late. I think because I was protein deficient when I was younger. And this was in the 90s, right, where there was so few vegan and vegetarian meat substitutes out there. I remember when Eve's veggie dogs hit the market, that was like a big thing. So anyone who says nowadays, oh, it's so hard to go vegan, I'm like, no, it is not. There is a substitute for everything nowadays. Whereas when I started out, there was basically nothing. But I think it does go to show that, yes, you can still grow up and be protein deficient and obviously be relatively healthy, but I definitely became more healthier when I got into the whole fitness world for sure.
There must be something about the year 2011 because that's when I started and I became vegan as well. And so many people we've been talking to, have started around that time. And the difference in the food that's available now, even 7-8 years later, is tremendous. There's so many more options available for people that want to transition to a vegan lifestyle than there were even 7 years ago. So it is a lot easier these days than it was even that short time ago.
Totally. Even restaurants, right? There's a vegan option pretty much everywhere nowadays, where that's totally new, even from 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
And I kind of mixed on all of, there's a substitute for everything, but I'm so mixed on it because yes, it helps that transition. It helps you give up hot dogs because you could have the veggie dogs. It helps you give up taco meat because you can have, the ground veggie taco meat. But long term, in terms of, a plant-based lifestyle and really eating for your health long term, these things are not necessarily helping us, but it is going to help the world, be able to embrace more vegetarianism and more veganism as we go. So I guess it is a good thing, but I do feel mixed about it because I find people then get just addicted to all of those.
Well, because you could be very unhealthy eating a vegan meal, right? Or a vegan lifestyle.
But can you compete, do bikini competitions or bodybuilding competitions eating like that?
Well, it's funny. I did an interview on my podcast recently with Nadej Corcoran, who's a vegan bikini competitor, and I was shocked to learn that she does not meal prep at all and basically survives off of homemade gluten pancakes out of Vital Wheat gluten and also the Gardein scallopinis, which the macros are pretty good, as in they're high in protein but relatively low in carbs and fat. And so it just goes to show, different strokes for different folks, because if you were to look at any of her competition photos, her physique is incredible. And here she was basically surviving on gluten and fake meats the whole time. So
I wonder if it was a calorie deficient diet.
Well, a very high protein, right? We discussed it, and she said, what else am I supposed to do when my coach gives me macros of, 200 grams of protein per day and 50 grams of carbs, where you're getting most of that out of just cucumber and spinach, right?
Wow.
I couldn't do it personally. I always say I'm like the holistic hippie of the vegan bodybuilding world. I don't do a whole lot of gluten, to be honest. And I do like some of the vegan meats, but I tend to stick more to, organic, non-GMO tofu or tempeh or lentils, beans, stuff like that for sure.
So we can get a little bit more into diet soon, but I wanted to know what got you interested in bikini competition to begin with? Was it, that first picture you took standing on a ladder in your bikini booty pose, or did it come a lot later?
She's referring to my Instagram post that I posted a couple days ago. No, so I did date a personal trainer for 4 years, and it was a very toxic relationship. So the last year we were together, he got a job, some sketchy sales job in Australia. And so we were doing the long distance thing, but it was just awful. We were fighting all the time. I had suspicions he was cheating on me. Every time we talk on the phone, we get into a big fight. And so the thing that I found helped me the most was working out. But I wasn't quite comfortable enough going to the gym by myself. So I actually bought a full weight bench off of Craigslist with barbells and dumbbells and all the fancy gizmos. And every time I would fight with this guy, I'd get off the phone. I would put on I Stand Alone by Godsmack or some other heavy metal song, and I'd just bawl my eyes out and hammer the weights to this music. And it was very therapeutic for me. And then when I finally realized, he was cheating on me, ended it with him, and then decided, well, I've got all this free time on my hands and I'm single now. So what do most women do if they don't change their hairstyle? They, try to change their physique completely. And that's basically what I did. But at the time, again, this was 5-6 years ago, where there wasn't a lot of information available to vegan bodybuilding women or vegan bodybuilders in general. And because I had studied journalism, I decided, well, hey, why don't I put my writing skills to good use? And I created my blog, jackedonthebeanstalk.com, and really just created it to start sharing my own recipes and workouts and experiences as I geared up to train for this first ever bikini competition.
Well, that is amazing, because it was almost like he led you down this path, right? And maybe it was a good thing that, the relationship wasn't going so well, because it brought you to where you are, right?
Oh, totally. And I say that all the time. I don't like to give him credit for anything, but essentially it was this horrible toxic relationship that fueled me to go down this path. So I am grateful in a sense, for sure.
So how long did you train for that first competition, and how did that competition go?
Well, as luck would have it, so I did train very consistently for 8 months, but I'd also been doing the whole in my tiny bachelor apartment Craigslist ghetto setup for a couple years before that. I mean, going to the gym with him and then it was probably 3 years total, to be honest, that I'd been consistently working out, but 8 months that I had dedicated to that particular prep for that first ever show. And it was awesome because Vega, which is obviously a well-known vegan sport nutrition company, they sponsored me to go enter this first competition. And so I drove 16 hours across northern British Columbia with a few of my vegan girlfriends. And we were handing out Vega samples along the way, and we were interviewed on the news, and kind of made this big ordeal out of this little Jacked on the Beanstalk of vegan bodybuilding adventure. And as luck would have it, somehow I ended up taking first place in my first ever show, which is almost unheard of, not to mention as a vegan. So that was pretty awesome.
Sweet.
So how did that feel?
I still to this day say that first show was my most challenging competition ever, because it was untested. So I was going against girls on all kinds of steroids and anabolic performance enhancing substances. And I'll never forget how amazing that felt, to be honest, of having all my friends screaming in the audience for me, and then to hear that I won first place. And it was like, wow, all that hard work really paid off. And then, of course, I had the blog, and then people really started. There was a lot of haters. That was the other thing. I had a lot of people doubting me. Oh, you're too skinny. Oh, vegan will never win a competition. And sure enough, after I took home that first place trophy, not once has anyone ever said anything negative to me about vegans not being able to build muscle.
And vegan bodybuilding has definitely grown a lot. And our friend Jeff Morgan just competed in his first bodybuilding competition. He also won at age, I think he's 47 now. So that's pretty cool. And he was on our podcast talking about other things.
And Marzia Prince also won her first one as a vegan bodybuilder.
So it's pretty amazing what people are doing these days on a vegan lifestyle. So when you did these 8 months of training, how intense was the actual training? Were you doing it like daily, six days a week? How much time did you actually put into the training?
It was 2 workouts a day, 6 days a week. Only 1 day I would take for rest per week. And I would do anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour of cardio first thing in the morning, and then about an hour to 2 hours of weights in the evening. And then the closer I got to my show, sometimes even doing cardio after weights as well. So it was very life consuming. For sure, required a whole lot more dedication than I think I even realized. But I was so determined at that point that I was kind of all or nothing mentality.
Yeah, it's a full-time job. I mean, it's not much different than when I was training for the Ironman.
Yeah.
Right, both times. Yeah, it's
Up
a lot.
early.
It's a lot. It's a huge commitment.
And how much were you eating?
It's so funny because I remember when I first started thinking, oh, this is so horrible. My whole life is so boring and living out of Tupperware containers and whatnot. But now when I look back, I'm like, it really wasn't that bad because I eat very similarly now, but just, bigger portions and not weighing every single piece of food that goes into my mouth. But you're eating a lot. You're eating very small meals 6 times a day. I was still eating carbs throughout the entire prep. Even I was having fruit right until show day. But I also, because I'd given myself such a long time to prep for that show, it really wasn't that bad in terms of food. Whereas I've done other competitions where I wasn't as lean going into it as I wanted to be. So I had to get really strict to the point where it would go months without eating fruit or basically surviving off asparagus and tofu 6 meals a day. And that was not fun.
So what are the long-term effects for somebody who eats like that very often to be able to compete?
I think it can definitely mess up your metabolism for sure. And I'm sure we all have seen the competitors who end up, going on a big food binge right after their show because you're restricting for so long that you literally are like fantasizing about all the forbidden foods that you haven't had for so long. So you can definitely fly off the deep end, and definitely first-time competitors. I've yet to meet any of them who haven't done that. And then it can create this vicious cycle of, oh no, I just ate all this bad food. Okay, back on the strict diet. And then, oh no, but I don't have a show to train for, so screw that. And then, and it's definitely more mentally taxing on anyone than physically, I would say. I mean, the physical part's tough too, but you have to be mentally strong going into the world of competitive bodybuilding. Don't think that you're going to come out of competitions as a more confident person. You need to be confident going into them for sure.
We're taking a short break from this podcast to let you know that the holidays are coming, like you didn't already know. Don't get scared. Don't get nervous. Hold on to that steering wheel or bicycle handlebars. It's no emergency, but yes, the holidays are around the corner. You all have that loved one who's either started to exercise more, started to eat more plant-based, started listening to the Plant Trainers podcast, and kind of wants to show it all off. Well, we've got the perfect gift for them this year. We have our green Propelled by Plants SPF Ironman finishing materials sports tee and our gray Training for Life cotton tee. Sounds like a good idea, right? Well, I don't want to alarm you, but some of your plentiful peeps have figured it out already too. We're running out of sizes, so I suggest you order really soon. And did I mention that With every t-shirt purchased, we send out a handwritten letter, and we also contribute to a compassionate charity. So if you have a special message, just send us an email to info@planttrainers.com, and we'll be sure to include that in the package if you're sending it out as a gift. So get on it before snail mail becomes even slower by clicking the t-shirt link in the show notes or going to planttrainers.com/shop. And now back to the show.
It's kind of like eating disorders in high school, and those of us that didn't have full-fledged eating disorders but went through those cycles. It's like a bodybuilding thing.
Oh, I always say it's a justified eating disorder, and it's crazy how many people will come to me and say, oh yeah, I've been anorexic or bulimic off and on for years, but I think that doing a competition is the answer. And I won't even take them on as a client, to be honest, because I tell them, trust me, this is not the sport for you. This is only going to make your problems that much worse. You need to invest in proper therapy, not in a bodybuilding coach.
Is there a way to compete in a bodybuilding competition and stay healthy while you do that competition prep?
Oh, yeah, I think there is for sure. And like I said, I think when you do it with enough time and you have the right mentality where you're embracing the grind, you're committing to it. And I always tell my client, whether they're training for a show or not, is focus on what you want to learn, rather than, I must look a certain way by this date or whatever, because that is a horrible mentality to have. Whereas if you're focusing on, I just want to learn how to build muscle. I want to learn how to eat better. I want to learn how to be consistent with my workouts. It's such a better approach, and you'll come out so much a healthier mindset in the end, for sure. And don't be so focused necessarily on, I must win first place. I must be 8% body fat. Instead, just do everything every day that will make you get on stage and know that you gave it your all and have fun. It's also so political too, right? That I think, you can't go into it thinking, if I don't win first place, I'm going to hate myself, because you never know what they're looking for. It's such a subjective sport that who are they to say, if you're doing an Ironman race, it's very obvious who the winner of that race is. Whereas with bodybuilding, this is 3 or 4 complete strangers' opinions on what they think is aesthetically appealing, right? So it's important people know that going into it and just focus on, hey, I'm challenging myself and I'm going to have fun with this.
I think you definitely need to have thick skin. You're right.
Definitely.
It's very interesting because a lot of my students that I work with in my fitness class, the first thing they do when they walk into the weight room is, I want to get jacked this year. They don't say jacked on the beanstalk, but they say they want to get jacked. They want to see the results. And a lot of people, I find, they want that quick fix. They want that fast return on their investment. And I don't know if they're going to get that just by walking into the weight room once in a while. It's a huge commitment, as you're talking about with reference to competitive bodybuilding. But for the average person who's looking for those results, what would you say to them as far as hitting the weight room and getting the results that they're looking for? You talked about learning, and I don't think most people are looking to learn how to do it. They just want those results.
For sure. And I think a big part of that is having that I'll be better when mentality is what I call it. And that's I'm not confident being this lean or with this much extra weight on me, but when I lose that 20 pounds, when I gain 8 pounds of muscle, then I'll be happy, then I'll be confident. And so we really need to get out of that mentality and just focus on where you are at in the present moment. And then saying, okay, I want to build more muscle, but I know these things take time, and I'm not all about crash dieting. And I'm sure you guys know as well as I do that muscle takes a really long time to build. So, you have to make it about health first and foremost, and not be tied to that quick fix and, wanting change overnight, because it's not going to happen. You need realistic expectations, and not even be tied to expectations. Have high intention to reach that goal, but low attachment to a specific number or a specific body goal, for sure.
I think that we can relate this to so many other things that happen in people's lives. You know, I'll start my health coaching when my daughter's in school full time, or I'm going to, I'm going to take the meal planning course after the next 2 vacations, because what's the point in starting for the next 4 weeks if I just have to stop? And it's something that I see all the time in my coaching as well. And it's, it's something, I'll go shopping for a new dress, when I lose the 20 pounds, it happens in all different areas of life. Yeah. So it's not just specific to bodybuilding, but I see how realistic that really is. So, okay, you have a client who won a $200,000 prize in the bodybuilding.com competition. And you have another client who is also vegan who won Lee
Labrada's Lean Body Challenge. Yep.
Exactly. So do you think that being vegan happens to be part of it? Do you think that we're going to see more and more vegans winning these kinds of competitions?
So, I mean, I think it's easy to be an unhealthy vegan, as we mentioned earlier. I mean, fries and Oreos are vegan as well. I think being a vegan athlete, there are definitely some health benefits, such as faster recovery, better digestion. But it really comes down to, calories in versus calories out, and how hard are you training, and making sure you're eating enough protein to build the muscle required. And, I think that was the main reason why they were able to win. I think it definitely goes to show that it doesn't matter whether you're vegan or not. People are still perfectly capable of winning any kind of sport or competition. And these 2 clients worked their asses off. And, whether they did it vegan is great for the vegan movement for sure, and great for my coaching business. Absolutely. But I don't think it's necessarily just because they were vegan. I think it really came down to the discipline and just doing their macros properly, and just replacing the dead animal with plant-based options.
Is there any body type where they walk through the door and say, hey, I want to do this competition, and you'll have to say, you just won't win. You just weren't born with the right makeup?
Is that what it's all about, though, winning?
No, well, that's what I want to know. I mean, you can go into it saying, I want to do well, I want to build muscle, I want to have fun, but some people want to go in to win. So I'm just thinking, my legs are like, one of my legs is like twice the size of your one leg, right? So would that be a term? Maybe it's a good thing in bodybuilding, actually, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. And I do like this question, because I have encountered this before where, for instance, bikini division is very hourglass shape. They want somebody who is naturally broad shoulders, a teeny tiny waist, and big round booty. And that, that hourglass shape, I think every woman aspires to have that, but some of us just aren't built like that. And unfortunately, when you're choosing a sport that is so shallow and based on aesthetics, of course genetics is going to play a role. And you look at any of the biggest bodybuilding pros in the world, and they do have the right genetics to do well. But that being said, I know another vegan bodybuilder, for instance, who I used to always say, wow, she has such a long torso. This is going to be so hard for her to do well at this sport, because she just does not have the genetics for it. And yet she kept giving it year after year after year, show after show. And she did end up winning a couple of shows. So I think I would never want to discourage a client if they really had their heart set on doing a bodybuilding competition. But, just don't try to be somebody else's body. It's crazy to me how often, and maybe you guys get this too, where clients will send me photos. Okay, so I want her butt and her stomach and her legs. And it's like, okay, well, I don't have a body part factory out back here, so I don't know. How about let's work with your genetics and just try to bring, a tighter package and a little bit more aesthetically appealing based on what your body is capable of.
Fortunately, we do a little bit different kind of coaching. We do more lifestyle coaching, so we don't get those questions too often.
Right.
But that's funny. I don't have, I can't. You could print it on a 3D printer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then, so this prize, like $200,000, like cha-ching, do you see any of that? Do you get a nice bouquet of flowers? Like what happens when your clients win?
Well, she won $80,000. So I believe they had a male winner, a female winner, and then a People's Choice winner. So the two main female and male got 80,000 each, and then I think whatever it was, the People's Choice Award went. The remaining prize went to them. But I didn't actually get a piece of the prize, and that's okay. I don't think I expect it because they're the ones that did all the work and they hired me for a service. I provided them with that service. And to be honest, the best thing that they can do, and they did, was promote me as their coach. So, bragging rights, I guess, and client referrals is the piece of the prize that that I get. And I'm quite okay with that.
I just want to know.
Everyone, yeah, I do get asked that a lot for sure.
So what do you think are the hardest things for people to deal with while they're coaching? While they're prepping, if they're doing 8 months of prep, you said that you were lonely, you said that you were eating out of Tupperware. What are the biggest ups and downs that most bodybuilders go through?
Yeah, definite lack of social life. It's also always blows my mind how often people will commit to doing a show prep, but then say, but I still want to go out with my husband for dinner twice a week, and I still want to drink my red wine, and it's okay, then this is not the sport for you. You need to be fully prepared that, this is a huge commitment. It's also very mentally draining because not only is it very isolating and people aren't going to understand it, but you also have to remember that this is a self-inflicted choice. You're choosing to undertake this, you're choosing to do this. So people aren't going to have a lot of sympathy for you when you're pulling out your Tupperware containers of cold asparagus spears and, oh, woe is me kind of thing. And on that note, I think it definitely changes your relationship to food and body image. I always give the example that I never thought that I had anything wrong with my legs at all, always loved my legs. And then I did provincial championships in British Columbia a few years back, and the judges told me that my legs were too thick. And so, of course, from that moment forward, I developed this, my thick legs. And it took me a long time and years of not competing to finally say, you know what? I love my thick legs. They're strong and they can do a lot and they look great in a pair of leggings. And so I think people need to, as we mentioned earlier, you don't think that competing is going to create confidence for you. If you're lacking confidence, there's a lot better ways to find it, and through health and fitness, but not necessarily the competitive bodybuilding approach. And same with food. It's really hard to not label food as good or bad when you're so used to eating the same bland and boring foods all day long, and a lot of lack of fats, whereas healthy fats are good for you. They're crucial for your hormones, for women especially. But I've done preps myself, and I've had to prep clients where if they're competing in a few weeks, well, I'm sorry, but all the fats in your diet have to go, and what that can wreak havoc on your brain function to the point where you're in the gym on the verge of crying because you're so hungry and you're so deficient in fats. So there's definitely an evil side to physique competitions that people don't really know about going into it. But that being said, it does teach you a lot about food, and it really does bring you to a new level of commitment and dedication that you can absolutely apply to any area of life. So I don't want to sound like I'm crapping all over bodybuilding competitions. Like, it was great for me. Obviously, it put me in the position and career that I'm in today. And I did absolutely learn a lot from it as well.
No, and it's fair because I did ask for the downs. You're not just crapping on it. I asked for the downs.
And a lot of our listeners just shut down because they heard how hard it is to do these competitions. But a lot of them might be saying to themselves, I don't know if I want to go to the level of competition, but I certainly want to improve my physique. I want to bulk up a little. I want to tone up a little. What advice would you give to them on the best ways for them to get started in going in that direction? Maybe not all the way to the competition level, but in that direction.
Yeah, so I absolutely suggest that people book a photo shoot. If you're a woman, there's all kinds of boudoir style photo shoots. You could do it for your partner or even for yourself. And that's a great goal to have. I think it really depends what starting point they're at. If they've never stepped foot in a gym ever in their life, then maybe going 2 times a day is going to be a bit excessive, but, just really looking at what your current activity looks like and then trying to increase that and just constantly challenging yourself. You always want to shock your body. That's how we do get muscle growth and whatnot. So maybe it's just adding in more vegetables. Maybe it's upping your protein intake. Maybe it's being more conscious of the kinds of carbs that you're taking in and sticking to good sources of starchy complex carbs rather than Oreos, just getting into the gym 3 times a week maybe, or maybe it's just going for a walk for 30 minutes every day. You got to start somewhere, but anything is better than nothing. And I do think it's good to have a goal. I think it does keep us psychologically healthy. So if it's not a physique competition, maybe there's a vacation you have planned and, you just want to start incorporating some healthy habits so that you look and feel your best for that day. Or like I said, photo shoot, also a great idea.
I'm going to piggyback on that and say once that first goal has come around, make sure you're ready with your second goal.
Yes,
because,
absolutely.
We see a lot of yo-yo dieting, this vacation, that vacation, my sister's wedding, this and that. And that's just not healthy for the body. So if you're going to start to say, hey, I want to be healthier and I have a vacation coming up. So, maybe I can build a little bit more muscle or maybe I can drop 5 pounds. Well, okay, what do you have later on that's going to drive you to continue with that progress that you've began to put in? Because no matter what it is that we do, there's so much commitment that goes into it. There's so much heart that goes into it. And it's a lot of hard work. So there's no point in wasting it. You're not going to make a pot of chili and spill half of it down the sink and then just go eat the other pot, the other half. You need to make sure that you know what's next, because this whole yo-yo dieting that our society is part of is not helping anybody at all.
Absolutely. And that's why I think it goes back to the what do I want to learn? And that can be your next question. Okay, so I've learned how to eat better and how to exercise more. Okay, what do I want to learn next?
Exactly. Whatever's on the Plant Trainers podcast or Jacked on the Beanstalk coming up next.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's always something to learn.
Yeah, even,
totally.
Yeah,
and
even for all of us.
Yeah, I was going to say another really good tip that I have for people who I personally hate doing cardio, but I love listening to podcasts and audiobooks. So I always suggest to my clients, try to pair the thing you don't like with something you do like. So if, say, you hate meal prepping, well, listen to inspiring podcasts while you meal prep, or listen to, podcasts that make you feel good while you're doing cardio. And it makes that less than desirable habit become that much more enjoyable when you compare it with something you do enjoy. And it's exercise for your brain, right? So that's what got me into podcasts in the first place, to be honest. So yeah.
But Sam, I hate running and I love eating ice cream.
Well, then what I always tell those people is focus on a healthy substitute for that unhealthy thing. So if you love eating ice cream, well, why not make banana and ice cream, mix it with some powdered peanut butter and throw in some, cacao nibs or some stevia chips or whatever. And you can make yourself a really healthy ice cream that you still feel like you're satisfying that craving. And, you don't have to run on the treadmill, but go and walk and listen to a podcast about healthy ice cream alternatives.
And now I want some ice cream.
No, it's way too cold in the house. We haven't turned on the heat yet.
Great stuff. Great tips, Sam. Thanks so much for that. If people want to reach out to you, where would be the best place for them to go?
So definitely my website at jackedonthebeanstalk.com. And I have a podcast as well under the same name for sure.
Good. So we encourage everybody to find you there. We want to thank you so much for taking the time with us today and for everything you do for the plant-based community, the vegan community, the animals, and everything that goes further than that. You're doing a great job, and we're really happy that we got to connect with you and, that I met you in person in Ottawa at the Nation Rising just back in July.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad to have new podcast buddies who are in the same province.
Yeah, lots of fun. People are like, what's a province?
Yeah.
I know most of my subscribers are in the States too. Do you guys ever get made fun of for your Canadian accents?
Not our Canadian accent, but we've had people write in and say, or I was telling you this story where I Googled myself?
Hummus?
Yeah, the hummus. I Googled myself and they posted the Plant Trainers podcast as a great plant-based podcast, but they're like, but the way that she says hummus, it must be a Canadian thing.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. I'm going to start using it. Does Adam say hummus?
I don't know. What do you say?
I don't know what I say. Hummus.
Hummus.
I just eat the stuff.
Yeah, I think it's more of an Israeli thing. Like it's a ch, it's a ch, it's a hummus. Yeah.
I dig it.
Dig it. I dig into it. Yeah. All right. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for listening to this edition of the Plant Trainers Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or any other podcast listening platforms. We appreciate the feedback we receive from you. Every time we get a 5-star rating or review on iTunes from one of our fans, it ensures other people will find us too. Thanks to our patrons. To become a patron, visit www.patreon.com/planttrainers. Even supporting us with $1 really makes a difference. Connect and follow us on Instagram and Twitter @PlantTrainers. Like Plant Trainers on Facebook, join our newsletter, and check out our website at www.planttrainers.com for awesome plant-based recipes and a list of our services. Email your questions to info@planttrainers.com so we can answer them on our upcoming Facebook Lives. We hope we've inspired you today. Join us again next time and have a healthy day.